Imagine waking up and looking at the sky. But instead of just the blue void or the familiar moon, there is a gargantuan, glowing arch of light stretching from horizon to horizon, dominate your every view. Depending on where you stand, it could be a massive bridge across the stars or a razor-thin line of fire. A crown for our planet. Saturn-style rings right here on Earth, made of trillions of pieces of ice and rock. It would be the most beautiful thing humanity has ever seen. We would finally be the jewel of the solar system. But beauty, as always, comes with a massive planet-sized bill. A cost we might not be able to pay. From ruined winters to the end of the space age, having rings isn't just a makeover, it's a disaster. So let's see what happens if Earth finally put a ring on it. Spoiler, it's a complicated relationship. First, say goodbye to your favorite satellite TV and reliable GPS. The rings are a literal wall for signals, but before we panic about the Wi-Fi, we need to know where these rings came from. Usually, it's a murder. A moon gets too close to its host planet, crossing the Roche Limit, where gravity's hug becomes a crush. The debris spreads out, flattened by the planet's rotation, into a perfect, shimmering disk of doom. Luckily, our moon is actually moving away from us. To get rings, we'd need a different cosmic accident. Maybe an icy comet wanders too close and gets shredded. A frosty delivery for a new planetary look. But once the rings are there, things get weird. Really weird. Starting with the weather. What if Earth had rings? A majestic addition to our planet, or a cosmic curse that changes everything we know about home? To understand the rings, we first have to understand light. Specifically, how much of it they would steal from us. The rings are not just pretty light. They are billions of tons of ice and rock. They are, essentially, a giant celestial parasol. For people on Earth, this means shadows. Not just the cute shadows of clouds, but massive, permanent bands of darkness. Because of Earth's tilt, these shadows wouldn't stay in one place. They would dance across the hemispheres with the seasons. Imagine it's the middle of summer. You're ready for the heat, but the shadow of the rings has just arrived for a visit. Less sunlight means less heat. In the regions covered by the shadow, temperatures would plummet. Areas that used to be tropical paradises could suddenly find themselves in a perpetual, shadowy autumn. Agriculture would be devastated. Most of our crops aren't designed to grow in the twilight of a ringed world. We could be looking at a permanent cooling effect. A man-made, or rather, moon-made, ice age. But it's not all darkness. At night, the rings would be a second sun, reflecting sunlight back to the dark side. Nights would never be truly dark again. The white nights of the Arctic would be everywhere, all the time. Humanity would have to adapt. Blackout curtains would become the most valuable resource on the planet. But humans aren't the only ones who need the dark. Millions of animals rely on the stars and moon to navigate. For them, the Silver Arch is a confusing, blinding mess. And we haven't even talked about the space junk yet. Beyond the weather, the biggest problem is up here. Our orbits are already crowded, but rings would turn them into a shooting gallery. Trillions of tiny ice and rock particles, all moving at thousands of kilometers per hour. To a satellite, they are bullets. One collision creates more debris, which causes more collisions. This is the Kessler Syndrome, on cosmic steroids. Launching rockets would be nearly impossible. Earth would become a prison, trapped under a canopy of spinning ice. Global communications would collapse. No more satellite internet, no GPS to find the nearest pizza place, nothing. But it's worse for the locals. Many animals rely on the Earth's magnetic field and the stars to find their way home. The rings would reflect so much light that the stars would vanish from the night sky. The celestial map is erased. For thousands of years, sailors used the stars. Now, they just have a very pretty, very useless arch of ice. And it's not just visible light. The ice particles would cause massive radio interference, making deep space research a nightmare. Essentially, we'd be building a wall between us and the rest of the universe. A beautiful, glittering wall. Could we fix it? Maybe, but it would require satellites to be built like tanks, heavy, armored, and incredibly expensive. And the rings aren't static. Over time, the inner edge would rain down into our atmosphere as a never-ending meteor shower. Sounds romantic? Sure, until you realize that's just more space trash burning up. Every single Night. We would be grounded. The dream of the stars, replaced by the reality of a cage. But wait, there's one more thing. If we can't look out at the stars, how would we change as a species? Let's talk about the cult of the ring. For all of human history, the sky was a canvas of chaos. But with rings, we have a constant, unchanging God looking down. Ancient civilizations would have worshipped it. The ring wouldn't just be ice and rock. It would be the backbone of the world. Our concept of time would change. Forget the moon's phases. We would mark our years by where the ring's shadow falls. Cave paintings wouldn't show just the sun and stars, but a giant silver snake wrapping around the earth. In the modern world, it would be the ultimate brand. Every logo, every flag, every skyscraper would point to the arch, but it would also divide us. The sun side and the shadow side would have very different lifestyles and politics. Living in the shadow for 6 months at a time would lead to seasonal depression on a global scale, while the other side of the world fights for every scrap of light, turning sunshine into a luxury commodity. Every year, billions of people would have to migrate just to stay in the light. The greatest moving day in history. But we wouldn't just lose the light, we would lose the stars. Our connection to the deep universe would be severed. Astronomers would be out of a job. We'd know everything about our rings, and almost nothing about the galaxies beyond. Our only hope for seeing the stars would be to build observatories on the dark side of the moon. A very long commute. But despite the chaos and the cold, we would love them. They would be the Earth's crown, our beautiful prison. We would grow up seeing this arch every day. To us, a planet without rings would look naked, boring, but rings aren't forever. Even the grandest crowns eventually fall. Let's look at the end of the Silver Arch. Planetary rings are not permanent features. They are a fleeting cosmic moment, a beautiful dance that eventually has to end. Scientists call it ring rain. Gravity and magnetic fields slowly pull the ice down, where it burns up in our upper atmosphere. Every second, Earth would swallow hundreds of kilograms of ring material. Slowly, bit by bit, the crown is being eaten. Over millions of years, the perfect arch becomes clumpy and dirty. It loses its shine, becoming a ghost of its former self. Even Saturn is losing its rings right now. In 100 million years, Saturn will look as plain as we do today. All that ice falling into the atmosphere would change its chemistry. We might see permanent, glowing auroras everywhere. Is it dangerous? Probably. Adding trillions of tons of water vapor to the upper atmosphere is a massive climate experiment. While the shadow cools the ground, the water vapor in the sky could act as a greenhouse gas, trapping heat. It's a mess. Eventually, the show ends. The last ice chunk burns up, and Earth returns to being a plain blue marble once again. For the generations born under the arch, the new, empty sky would feel lonely. A piece of their world is gone. Future archaeologists would look back at the ring age through the chemicals left in the ice and the soil. We would realize that we lived through a miracle. A brief moment where Earth wore its soul on its sleeve. And finally, with the rings gone, our cage would open. The stars would come back. Space would be ours once again. We would look up at the dark void and realize how much we missed it. The universe is big, and we are finally back in the game. But what if the rings didn't just rain away? What if they were created by a massive impact? Let's check the chaos. To get rings that last, you usually need a catastrophe, a cosmic collision that breaks a world apart. Imagine a moon-sized object hitting Earth, a planetary smash-up that turns solid rock into liquid fire. Trillions of tons of vaporized rock are blasted into orbit. For a while, Earth doesn't have a ring. It has a shroud of death, but gravity is a patient organizer. Over thousands of years, it sorts the mess into a neat, flat line. The arch is born. This is actually how our moon was born. But instead of staying a ring, the pieces clump together into a giant ball. If the debris is too close to the planet, inside the Roche Limit, gravity prevents it from ever becoming a moon. In this zone, it's a permanent construction site that can never be finished. Trillions of fragments, forever apart. Gravity pulls harder on the side of the moon facing Earth than the side facing away. It literally tears it apart. It would be the greatest and most terrifying light show in history. A slow-motion explosion lasting for decades. But remember that bill we mentioned? The heat from a moon-smashing impact would bake the Earth's surface. Oceans would boil. The atmosphere would choke with dust. You might get your rings, but you won't be around to see them. Humanity would have to flee or perish. We'd be refugees watching our home transform into a ringed beauty from afar. But eventually, the fire goes out. Life returns. And the new inhabitants wake up to a world they never knew was plain. They wouldn't call them Earth's rings. To them, they'd just be the sky. The silver arch, always there. So maybe we're lucky we have a boring sky? Or are we missing out on the universe's best jewelry? Let's conclude. If we lived in a world with rings, our entire philosophy of life would be different. We would be constantly reminded that we are part of a cosmic machine. Every culture would have a story for the arch. It would be the path to the afterlife, or the spine of a sleeping dragon. We take our plain sky for granted. But to a ringed civilization, our Earth would look unfinished, like a house without a roof. The arch is a reminder of our fragility. It's made of trillions of tiny accidents, just like us. Maybe we would be more humble. It's hard to feel like the center of the universe when a giant silver ring is literally above your head. Rings are common in our solar system. Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune all have them, but they are faint, dark, and shy. Poor Mars is currently ringless, but don't feel too bad. It's actually scheduled for a new set in a few million years. Its moon, Phobos, is slowly spiraling inward. One day, it will cross the Roche Limit and, poof, instant rings. So, in the grand timeline of the universe, everyone gets their turn with the jewelry. We just missed our appointment. Is that a bad thing? Our boring sky gave us the stars, navigation, and a stable climate for millions of years. Our plain Earth might not have the bling, but it has something better. The perfect conditions for us to exist. So we can keep dreaming of the silver arch. It's a fun what if to play with, like a cosmic fashion show. But tonight, when you look up, don't be disappointed by the lack of jewelry. The universe is still showing off. The stars are there, the moon is there, and you are here. And that's a pretty good deal. What other cosmic what-ifs should we explore? Tell us in the comments. We're just getting started. This video was made possible by your curiosity. If you want to see more what-if scenarios, the best way is to support the channel. Click the subscribe button and hit the bell. Every new subscriber helps us build our own digital ring of knowledge. To our patrons and supporters, you are the real jewels in our sky. Thank you for keeping the lights on in the studio. If you're still hungry for science, check out these videos on the screen. There's so much more to explore. Thanks for being here. Stay curious, and we'll see you in the next cosmic adventure. Bye! Are you still here? Go watch another video, or go outside and look at the actual sky.